And welcome back. Northstar here with another episode of HOI4 Gotterdammerung Let's Play. Now, looks like the last video actually got some viewers, so maybe there's some people watching here. I think getting my OBS issues with video worked out helped, and now I got the sound worked out, so you should be able to hear the game and the music for the game and such. Excuse me. I took the music volume slightly because I noticed in some older videos you couldn't quite make it out. But too much, and well, I get headaches, I'm on COVID. Anyways, I've done a lot of stuff off camera. I can't showcase it all. You'd sit here listening to me talk forever, but I did switch into ideological loyalty because I need manpower. I was in quick improvisation. The command power was being used to recruit new generals. The faster planning speed was helping the effectiveness of my army. But at this point, I'm becoming desperate enough for manpower that's worth maybe taking slightly higher casualties, in that the army spirit will probably get me more extra manpower than extra casualties I suffer due to sore planning and missed opportunities from that. I really am getting in more of a manpower crunch, and this is going to be going a long time. So even if I don't immediately see the benefits, I'm about to be able to stop mobilizing more manpower, reach the full amount for extensive conscription with the Iron Front, and then casualties will wear down my manpower pool. I've already lost about 250,000 people almost in the last year of combat, according to that. So, yeah. Soon enough, I'm going to want to probably throw field hospital companies on some of my divisions, but probably want to grab the third level hospital type before I put that additional strain on my support equipment. The tech might not necessarily be worth it if not for the fact that I can use it to upgrade my truck manufacturer, which can upgrade, the mechanized and truck units, make them better. They're using it as research. So if it's worth doing anyways, just to grow the MIO. I know there's a lot of criticism of field hospitals. That's because a lot of players play momentum play styles. They conquer stuff early. They don't get a situation with this where you got very strong industry, more limited manpower. As Germany, there's very little opportunity for me to expand my manpower pool anytime soon. I can't just roll into Poland or do Anschluss. Anschluss is not available in the communist path. You can puppet Austria, but they will, unless they're your ideology. I think if they are your ideology, they're triggered to still do you get cores and they join you and all that Anschluss type thing, but they have spirits to give them so much democracy drift, it'd be virtually impossible to flip them communist via the overlord decisions. So even if they accept my demand to become a puppet, they will remain an independent country. An independent capitalist democratic country. Game calls it democratic, but it's really capitalism. While many communist systems might not be considered functional democracies, the Spartacus League approach would be, as would the democratic socialism of the U.S. communist path, where it even is very clear in the description, and America still has elections when they take that path. That's absolutely still democracy. It's just socialist democracy. There are, I think Sweden also has democratic socialist path, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a handful of communist nations that are absolutely still democracies. Anyone who says otherwise is just brainwashed by thinking communism is not democracy, it's totalitarian, blah, blah, blah. No. While the Soviet Union set a terrible example of any kind of truly functional democracy, they did ingrain a lot of democratic institutions in their system. They just didn't work correctly, and it degenerated it into a powerful bureaucracy that held most of the real power, and the high-ranking party officials and stuff. But heck, you can see that in the US, where there's two parties, they hold the power. The will of the people doesn't matter. It's really the will of donors. That's not democracy either, no matter what people say. That's oligarchy, which is what the Soviet Union was, an oligarchy. So, anyways, I'm a fierce critic of all countries and all systems, and if you're just discovering this channel, I will criticize pretty much every country. The Soviets, the US, obviously the fascists. The fact is, there have been so many systems with so many flaws over the years. But I don't want to keep talking. I've been here 5 minutes and gotten derailed from, I will say I did some new aircraft designs, changed up my queue. There's going to be more fighters, more casts coming out, and then moving into some more bombers and naval bombers. I'm going to need the naval bombers because my fleet is non-existent due to the bug of not being able to reclaim my navy after the Second German Civil War, because none of my quote own states had naval bases, even though I'd captured states' naval bases very quickly in that war. So my navy disappeared into thin air. I gave up part of it in the First German Civil War, but I was fine with that. I kept most of the newer ships, but I would have probably liked to have reclaimed the newer ships they had after in the Second German Civil War, kept those. I specifically avoid naval combat during the Civil Wars, hoping to have more ships that I could keep. Otherwise, I should have fought the battles for the Navy XP and Admiral experience. So virtually no Navy means that I'm going to need to do naval patrols out here with some of my bombers that have floats, so they can actually get surface detection that's not non-existent, and some of them are going to do port strikes here in the Netherlands and Belgium, where there should be the task force is based that are conducting raids here, and they might be based in Sweden. So it's going to be a long-term thinking, enough bombers to actually conduct that. I've rearranged generals yet again, moved divisions around. It's not perfect. In particular, I just put this guy under the more defensive group. And his attack skill is so much higher than Henrique that I should... where's the unit that's not suffering from Intel Network Bowl? 66%. Maximum bonuses... It's annoying, 62. Yeah. Schultz is better, even if his divisions can't entrench as much, because none of them are going to suffer crits. They have enough defense on that defense. So I should be once again moving. I'll just this is where the Dutch like to attack the most on this front. So really quick, these divisions all reassigned to Schultz. These divisions, reassigned as well. Heck, yeah, this is the area the Dutch like to keep attacking, trying to wear me down. Renamed it from infantry assault to infantry expert. I've just been on the defense mostly, not able to really do attacks, so it hasn't made sense. Now, skill-wise, Henrique is... I thought he was close to gaining some trait or something. It doesn't look like it. Schultz might be closer. Gaining Trickster. Okay, so, yeah, even in terms of skill, this is... These guys, oh yeah, he's an unyielding defender, which does give him a chance. Increased counterattack, but with infantry bonuses, yeah, these guys are getting switched. unlikely actually be pushing to in there, but whatever. Nothing's perfect, but that should make things just a wee bit better. And just so I don't get to have this for any reason I need, like the game crashes, had that saved in. So yeah, I am. He's also an unyielding defender, anyways. Eberhard is still in this guy. Yeah, they get attacked periodically, but I think I did want more to gain some experience, maybe, or there's no way I'm gonna manage this attack. So yeah. There we go. Got people reassigned. They're digging in where they can. Got some divisions on the way here to actually do some attacking eventually. If I try and take this, try and push there, and I'll create a pocket. Yeah. Need to move these guys here. There's an attack here, and I need to pull them back. And whatever, but I'm gonna need enough divisions to try and push there. It's gonna be tough. I created a heavier infantry template, and these guys are doing their thing. These guys are doing their thing. I feel like there's something I'm missing. These are from Silesia, these men, and they're from Saxony. Both. Neither of them can entrench due to spy nonsense, including neutral spies not allowing entrenchment. It's obnoxious. Shouldn't be the case in the game. Is what am I gonna do? Oh yeah. Put these divisions under. Blah blah. There we go. One more save and good to go with that. I just realized after moving this guy defensively, I didn't allocate some divisions. But anyways, got to get things moving along. Yeah, license with Estonia, and I'm buying support equipment now from the Turks because I have a support equipment deficit. It's substantial, and even though that'll bite me in the long run industrially, I'm hoping Turkey will end up fighting the Soviets for a while. They'll get owned unless they join the Bulgarian faction and there's enough reinforcements. They could end up joining the communist whatever was it called, the International Revolutionary Marxist Bureau, the right opposition version of Comintern. You got weird bugs with rubber. I knew it was gonna be -3, but there's weird bugs with resources not calculating correctly. Whatever. Oil won't produce as much as should produce. How much am I getting from the British of? I'll just reduce it 1. Keep that with my allies. Oh, there's no trade route to Slovenia, so it's probably wasting factories anyways for the game is letting me, because it's annoying. Resources update after like a day or two, but for a little while you're not seeing as much be produced as should be being produced. And that's something that the Paradox devs ought to fix, probably never will. So, guess I'll buy a little more rubber from Siam here. That's probably an issue with my refineries not producing as much as they should be. But whatever. If I lock that in, it might stop others from buying the rubber. And I definitely do want to secure rubber sources so I can produce more aircraft. And let's get the music going here. Let's have that. There we go. It's like a Band of Brothers-y. Red. Well, that's the United Balkan Federation attacking. So the Bulgarians, they invited Romania and Yugoslavia into a faction a long time ago, and then they are able to annex and core them through a focus. This was a thing historically the Bulgarians started to pursue, and Stalin told no, and they said, okay, we won't try and do it, and that was dumb. It's also dumb is that if they do this and defy Stalin, or in this case Stalin was killed in the second Russian Civil War, or kicked out of power, I'm not sure which, it still considers them Stalinist, even if Stalin's around and they defy him, which, no. Stalinist is about adherence to like this one leader of all the communists theoretically. And not only that, where are they marching? It looks like they're marching left, but they can't march in my territory. I'm at war with them. That's weird. Not only that, this specific like approach to governance that was to be pursued was more similar to Yugoslavian decentralized, less powerful central government. There's no way the United Balkan Federation should be considered Stalinist. It was, how would I say, it was an idea that was flirted with. It was not historically pursued, but if it had been, it would have been, it's all history, of basically a non-Stalinist communist Bulgaria. And that was pursued even when Bulgaria became communist after World War II, as opposed to before here. I reported as a bug on the forums, and some jerk dev said, oh, it's working as intended, and we give zero explanation to the person that supposedly the community guy asked one of the devs, and he said that it was, they just love to label things Stalinist that aren't, and demonize communism too often, the devs, even while they have some remarkably insightful things about the diversity of communist views that existed. Sometimes they'll just pick countries and demonize it where it doesn't make historical sense. They're all over the map. It's clearly different devs, different views, and they let them do whatever they want. Okay, here we go. Rheinmetall. sliding breech box. That will, for free, go right into the Artillery 3 when I research it. After this, which I'm doing partly to make my anti-air guns with divisions a little better, but partly also for the fighting Rheinmetall. I'm going to do this because I'm going to create an improved version of Panzer II. I haven't changed that design since the first day of the game. I think I changed slightly the initial one. I could be wrong about that. Squeeze bore adapters in my Panzer IIs, as well as at the same time I'll do an armor and engine upgrade because they're rather outdated at this point, and I'd like to create a slightly upgraded version to give the design a little more longevity without completely redesigning my light tanks, because eventually I'm going to research the advanced light tanks, and the Panzer II type stuff will be entirely put by the wayside at that point. Yeah, so this is a holding game for a while I deal with major strategic threats like getting cut off from rubber and oil by sea. That has to be dealt with. Advance my tech. Work through key parts of my focus tree. It's far from ideal situation, but playing cautiously ensures victory, and if it's a narrower victory, instead of trying really hard to, say, push with divisions aren't quite up to it. Here I created something I've been putting off for too long, a version of the motorized division that has some artillery. Motorized artillery are the ones that can keep up and not slow the motorized down. So I know people like to diss these, but a light tank that's fast enough to keep up with motorized is very expensive. You need a ton of engine upgrades. It costs chromium. It's not nearly as affordable as this. This is the only way you can add artillery to motorized without sacrificing the speed. Later, when I go to mechanized, I'll probably have light tanks or light self-propelled artillery accompanying, depending on how long it is till I switch to mechanized. The self-propelled artillery get better as tech advances and MIO for them advances. They scale faster in light tanks and power, so eventually they eclipse them. It's not worth using medium with mechanized because the role of mechanized is not necessarily as a first-rate assault force. It's a second-rate assault force for taking more lightly defended positions and filling in behind the main spearhead divisions, which would be medium tanks, probably an actual tank division, or at least a higher proportion of light tanks with a medium tank battalion as tank leaders for sure. Everything is limited by industry. Obviously, medium tanks can outperform light, and heavy can outperform medium in many situations, but it costs more and more industry, and then you can't fill as many divisions. So they also are harder on their fuel supplies, and I just don't have, my fuel oil situation is just not good. Alright. I'm at 7 rubber now? Something must have updated in a good way. I have a lot of excess trucks and not enough fuel to run them all. I hate doing this. Sacrificing efficiency, but I need... That'll go into support equipment, and that'll go into fighters. I'm gonna reduce that. Probably this is due to naval rating. Yeah. There's some of my convoys getting raided. I'm gonna cut the oil imports for a little while. So that maybe the raiders will bug off for a bit. I don't know. Don't yet have the naval bombers. The point is when the bombers, besides just finding stuff randomly, is when the convoys get attacked like this, the naval bombers can join the battle and try and support my ships. I forget if it, I think they may have made it so that just convoys getting attacked doesn't pull in bombers anymore. But if I have some escorts, so may need some destroyers or light cruisers for that. It's a tough situation, a naval battle, but I eventually have to win it. There is some hope. Some things are swinging my way. The Portuguese apparently pulled all their garrisons, which they shouldn't have done. I mean, they probably had the manpower and equipment to still keep them filled, and they're eventually going to suffer, I suspect, revolts, and if not revolts, at least very high damage resistance. That's just going to get worse and worse for them. I could probably send spies to trigger proper revolts. I think that's 80% resistance. Let's see. I don't have anything that's resisting, so I can't see what level. But may be able to distract the other side. Eventually, after I take the liberate Austria, and Austria probably refuses to become my puppet, though they may say yes. There's a ram chance of it. I can go down the line of a couple more focuses and try and set off a communist revolution in Switzerland. They're over 40%, so if they get a choice between I get a puppet war goal on them, which I won't really be in a situation to attack and use, or they say okay, and the communist support goes up, and once it's over 40%, which already is, a civil war starts. And then if the communist side wins, there's enough focus that allows them to be automatically invited to my faction, so they won't join the Soviet faction, which would be annoying if they did. And so that can bring the Swiss into the war on my side, which is badly needed. Just start breaking the stalemate and open up some more frontage on Italy. And they've got nice sort of supply lines into Italy. So that'll probably help get rid of Mussolini quicker. He should eventually start for a civil war because he doesn't control all the states, all his core territory. It may take a while, but it's just a matter of time if the Balkan Federation keeps holding on to Trieste and Fayum here. So there's stuff, ways to advance stuff. I really wish they wouldn't attack here, but whatever. Eberhard is close to becoming a ranger. There. And Kesselring to becoming a trickster. So I had other things thought out that I've been concerned for days, and it's slipping my mind. My energy has been pretty low with my long COVID lately, and I did a video for my Citizen Sleeper Let's Play earlier today, and it just exhausted me. Just even doing that, it was a couple hours of recording, and I have very limited energy. So, apologize. I'm probably not saying things I meant to say. Speaking of Let's Plays, keep an eye out for my, besides my Citizen Sleeper and my Vampire ones, if any of you are interested, I'm going to be probably doing, Evorion, Age of Wonders 3, and Wildermyth very soon. I've already booted up Evorion and Wildermyth to refresh my memory of those games a little. I'll spend a little time doing that. more, and then eventually get that up. Age of Wonders 3, I'm already starting a multiplayer game with a Steam friend I'd like to record the next session of, so that will actually be the very next one. And I mean, maybe some of you are interested. Age of Wonders 4 is a Paradox game, but they bought the franchise after 3 was released. So, but it's kind of similar. And some point Stellaris, though I'll warn you, in that campaign, if I start using my existing save, it's one where I kind of blatantly have been cheating, just trying to get to the real late game content, because I too often lose interest in a campaign before I get there. And so the idea had been that blatantly save scumming and cheating stuff would get me to the late game content before I lost interest, and I'd get more experienced using that late game stuff and better with it. So then later in a more legit campaign, I would already know what I'm going to do in the late game. Too often Paradox games, I lose interest before I get to the late game stuff. So I may have some experience with the stuff, but very limited often. And that's not great. Alright. Gotta go back to, jeez, I guess that's a permanent thing or semi-permanent. I can buy oil from the US. I don't think that route's anymore. 79.3. Oh, it's just as subject to rating. I'm gonna have to buy from both of those and suffer. Oh, Iran. It's more efficient than oil that doesn't arrive from the other nations. Alright, well. Anti-tank upgrade. Before, unfortunately, tech to like one or two things with Al-Qaeda in the past. That was when I didn't anticipate at all this war with the Soviets happening, and so I've been planning on a couple years to rebuild after my second civil war, and grow up Al-Qaeda. And by like 44 or 43, I'd start producing light self-propelled artillery. I should say, start producing in 43 and using it in 44. Once I had some built up. And, yeah, but that's not going to happen, so that's kind of wasted. Unless something, I'd probably still be in this war until 44. And I have to think more short term to win. I'm already building on these darn refineries, which aren't really going to pay for themselves for quite a while. Hold on a sec. Only one Westfalen synthetic refinery? I thought I had more queued up. What? Oh. Well. It's not like a random fuel cell I can demolish. Nope. Sorry, 3 in the Rhineland. The local available resources, I think, might benefit, and I know yeah, it does benefit the rubber production. I know that faster construction speed makes the refineries less expensive, so places with dams are great places for refineries, which makes realistic sense because synthetic refineries be pretty hungry for electricity. Having abundant access to electricity and mechanical power from a dam would lead to more efficient production of synthetic rubber, or any kind of industry, really. Huh. 3 of the convoys got away alive. I don't think it... Without any convoy escort missions. Yeah, this guy didn't get any experience doing that. Right now my only navy is these 2 ships, which are kind of trapped in Kashubia by naval mines. I could risk pulling them out, but there's no point in just getting damage passing through the Baltic when I have no purpose at all. One's a part of the fleet that I don't want to risk the war support if I lose. My only battle cruiser, and the other is a ship I'll eventually retrofit into a aircraft carrier. The Graf Spree here. It's a little bit older cruiser design than the ones I'm currently producing. The others have some MIO upgrades that one doesn't have applied. So they're just kind of sitting there. They're not going anywhere until after the EU surrenders. Then maybe they can go in the Baltic and do some naval training, risk a Soviet attack or something. It's too risky right now. Eventually, there will be probably ways that Britain or the US will get pulled into this war, and possibly on my side. That'll help me with the British in particular. The Dutch have a focus to declare war on them, to get a war going on them. So if they actually declare that war, boom, British are now in the war, even though they had a non-aggression pact with the Soviets. The best defense. So having the British help will definitely make this war winnable. I ran down some special forces doctrines, going as far as blowtorch and corkscrew. I knew I was going to eventually be using some mountaineers. This gives all special forces extra attack. This really helps Marines and naval invasion capacity, so there's no point. Another here, eventually gonna want to grab combined arms training and shared instructors. There's no heat or cold thing now. I've got this. I keep debating whether to do form the Stasi next or form the paratroopers. The paratroopers, then I could take some of this surplus air experience and use it on the special forces tree for that. And because I'm swimming in almost unlimited amounts of air experience, I could go nav training for the cold heat acclimatization come the fall when it starts to get cold again. If I have it all by then, I do form paratroopers, then tech paratroopers 1, then do this. And then I could switch into this branch, which is what I want long term later. I have the air experience to burn. It doesn't matter. It'll start getting wasted when I reach 500, which is the cap. So, that's because I have a genius in charge of my Air Force. Guy you can only get if you're not fascist. So, oh yeah, Mueller here was historically a guy who helped plan Operation Tannenbaum. I forget if that was to invade Norway or to theoretically invade Switzerland. If it's Switzerland, it'll be particularly fitting of, in a way, if the Swiss Civil War happens and they end up joining my faction and putting division in Switzerland and planning an assault out of Switzerland into Italy in a weird sort of way, ironically. It'd be fitting. He worked, I think I explained this before. Mueller worked he was a historical general in East Germany. He was part of the Wehrmacht in World War II. He was a colonel. He was, I think, promoted to a general at like the last minute, as Hitler often did to ram people that he knew were going to have to surrender. So last minute promotion, he led a pocket defense, lost, was captured by the Soviets. He went some ideological re-education in the Soviet Union and became convinced of the value of communism and that the Nazis were evil, and actually ended up becoming involved in an anti-Nazi, anti-fascist resistance organization that the Soviet Union sponsored, that was involved in like trying to support resistance movements within the Third Reich. And then after the fall of Nazi Germany and their surrender, he ended up serving in the East German military and becoming both a politician and a general. He mixed a political and military career. I don't know if he did them simultaneously or if he served first in the army and then got elected to office, because there were elections in East Germany. They just weren't particularly functional, and despite the, they were a dictatorship thing, sort of. There's a lot of propaganda about it, but the fact is they, like the other communist countries, had mass meetings where officials were locally elected who then ran elections where it was just one candidate on the ballot, but that you voted yes, no on, because that was to prove the outcome of the mass meeting. If you voted no, another mass meeting was held. The actual competition, where you sometimes have 12 people running for an office, occurred at the mass meetings, not on the ballot. This was misrepresented to claim that there weren't elections in communist countries because there's only one person on the ballot, and no, it's not a real election. That wasn't the purpose of elections. Honestly, they should have given it some kind of unique name to make it clear to Westerners, this is not an election, this is a referendum on the outcome of a town hall meeting style election. That's what the mass meetings were. They're like, get 1,000 people in a room, people take turns speaking, and they vote show of hands or sometimes paper ballots if that becomes too chaotic. But generally show of hands, because so not secret ballot, unfortunately, which had its issues. But to get selected, someone would usually need an overwhelming, like 60-70% majority. So there'd be sometimes days of debate, and sometimes people would get elected just by wearing out people who are opposed to them being selected. And because this process could be so lengthy and sometimes stalemated, who the Communist Party endorsed became very important, because that made it much easier for them to just push through someone who didn't like them, because this was, local politics. Tons of these individuals are elected, and then they didn't have much power. Elected officials, they would go on and in turn elect another rank of representatives, who would then elect another rank of representatives, and that rank would hold a lot of actual political power. So indirect system of democracy, not particularly functional, not great, but not a complete absence of democratic participation that was often the Western propaganda about what existed. There were serious efforts to include, the people in decision making. It just wasn't as well smoothly running as it could be, and eventually got more and more subverted by political insiders influencing, endorsing who the party endorsed became more and more important as the years went on, as I understand it. That's why Cuba actually made these kind of party endorsements illegal, so that the party couldn't. It became to restore the importance of these local mass meetings, which they still do in Cuba to this day, because it just wasn't working as a form of democracy. It was leading to a lot of corruption and insider politics, and those things aren't good. Aren't desirable. But it is an impressive system coming out of the Soviet Union doing that, coming out of the Russian Empire, which had no democracy. I mean, you got to understand, they had no experience of it. The United States didn't even allow people who didn't hold land to vote for a long time, so democracies are often imperfect and become refined over time if they don't collapse into too much corruption or outside pressure. Soviet Unions were under so much pressure in the U.S. that distracted from, people were focused on the outside threat and not corruption that was slowly destroying their system from the inside. If they hadn't been under the Cold War pressures, maybe they would have actually reformed their system in a more functional way. Or maybe if, Stalin had been kicked down in the 30s and replaced with someone like Bukharin here, maybe he would have been more open to change even earlier and set things on a better path. There's a lot of what-ifs in history. Stalin definitely had a harmful effect, despite his actually trying to push for some constitutional reforms that are meant to deal with some of these things. But he was a pragmatist, and ultimately he cared a lot less about democracy than the Soviet Union surviving World War II. And that led to things getting worse, not better, under him. He was not a very principled person most of the time. So, I mean, he believed sincerely in communism, and he wasn't the absolute ruler he's portrayed as in a lot of nonsense propagandized. He actually ruled with a powerful council of other high-ranking members of the Soviet Union who could, and often did, outrule him on things. But it was like a council of 12 people who held most of the power under him. That's not really, democracy, but it's not absolute dictatorship either. Be more similar to, like, if fascist Italy, if Mussolini had not broken the power of, like, some of the high-ranking cabinets. That's like in this game, there's the Grand Council of Fascism, alt history path for Italy. It's still not democracy, but it's not the absolute rule that Mussolini historically had. It's oligarchy, and that's what the Soviet Union was. It was oligarchy. Oligarchy with some democratic institutions. But, the Spartacus League path represents a much greater focus on those democratic institutions and making sure they're actually healthy. And Germany had an actual history of democracy to build on, like from the Weimar period, that lasted much longer than the very short-lived social democracy period in Russia before the first Russian Civil War. That was 2 years? And then that republic died and it became the Soviet Union. It's because a civil war broke out and, the government kind of ceased to exist. They existed before that point. That was more pluralistic and included both the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks, who were each other's throats, and some more reactionary groups that would end up splitting off to form the White Army. And yeah, I mean, kind of like the way the Spanish Civil War kind of helped kill the Spanish Republic. Of course, led to the successful coup d'etat by Franco. Brutal fascist prick he was. Game represents him as non-aligned, but having fascists in his government, it's very iffy whether he was fascist or non-aligned. Some countries, like Argentina, has Francoist path, and it's fascist. It's not non-aligned in the game. What's considered fascist versus non-aligned often has more to do with whether a nation would tend to join the Axis in the game, or historically would have tend to join the Axis, because the ideology systems are more of a alliance system than actual ideology sometimes, the way they were made, at least early on in earlier DLCs. That's changed over time to allow more alt history paths. Alright, I'm talking too much about stuff that's probably not interesting you guys. Geez, what's happened to my oil supplies? It says I'm only getting 5% efficiency? Jeez, none of the oil is getting through this. I'm just under total naval blockade now, it seems. Alright. Buy all the Iranian oil I can. Right to then. Atomic research. That did, I think, shorten the existing stuff down. Find this short of oil. Oh, no, this fuel gain refineries plus 50%. That's pathetic considering how little the refineries actually produce at base. Bloody A. Alright, just gonna have to do improved infantry equipment. That's always important. I'm in serious straits with oil, as I figured I would be. If I run out of oil, I can't put up an effective defense. And if I can't put up an effective defense, well, then all this oil will be captured. 36 days, these refineries get repaired. They were bombed successfully, despite the huge numbers of aircraft flying air superiority over the region, which should have realistically been able to detect that raid. Alright, some unlease from this puppet mine. I'll eventually be re-annexing all my core puppets here someday, and possibly even annexing some non-core areas like Poznan, just because in Danzig because I need more naval dockyards, and Poznan because just a few more factors I directly control. And eventually that can be used to create a collaboration government on Poland. If I don't have any puppets on them, I'll probably puppet. I need to control a certain amount of industry directly more than, or maybe I'll just puppet all. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. Problem is my puppet's too large and I extract too much labor and such from them. They'll eventually break free. I won't get any of the benefits. And the idiot AI is shuffling divisions back and forth across the Baltic, and it's all getting sunk. Like, this is just not making things easy. For some reason, it always seems to happen to my allies too. I mean, the Italians have maybe a division or two that might get sunk here and there, but it's by far my allies who are suffering the worst casualties from ships. I don't even think it shows up on the war score thing, like in the casualties screen. Yeah. I may have to stop these exercises again just because my oil is critically low. If I'd realized the oil situation doesn't get this bad, I might have trained these guys all up to trained before deploying them, because that does consume oil. Exercises do consume oil. Synthetic refineries have pathetically low fuel production, so I can't really use those to fill in for much of my need. wish these guys would bloody stop attacking, but... if they're gonna just keep doing this for a while, and I'm this low on fuel, I'm gonna reassign this division there. Eberhard, it's a little bit better. Could avoid the awareness of someone being under a different general, and I don't think he was... this guy was probably gaining experience from that division being in combat. Maybe it was, but yeah. Need these guys to just reorganize after the fight, not go back to exercises. Alright, I have no choice but to buy some of this more marginal oil. It's like, I'm only getting 3 for the second factory. Here, only 1, but it's coming from my allies, so I don't mind handing them the factory nearly as much. Let's see, any oil that doesn't go... I really don't like doing this with Austria, because they're likely to attack me eventually, but... China... Oman... that's gonna cut into my getting factories done, unfortunately. All the ones I'm currently working on here. Nusima. I won't be able to get any of that equipment except shipping over the Baltic, where almost all of it will get sunk, so... it's not a huge loss. And in Oberbayern, yeah, I'll switch these because the naval rating on the Baltic has actually been much more aggressive than I expected. Oberbayern, they're... well, actually, they started buying some more stuff, so... I'm not done with that infrastructure. That's why I probably waited on that. I'll shift this up. Make sure Thuringen can buy needed resources for production, since I have 4 more mill factories coming out there. Given how effective that naval rating's been, Usimas would probably be put at the end. As should this, I'm mastering. That's both overseas and they're already in shortages of resources. Bad ones too. So I gain very little benefit from that. They will eventually take a focus to get a couple more civ, and that's the reason I'm doing that mill. Yeah, eventually I'm going to have to start converting my civilian factories to military ones if I sell away I'm going to get more equipment. Still not meeting the need for oil. Okay. These are all under the second train force, this guy. It's got 16 divisions up there. 6 down here. This is the one that... this guy, I guess. Doesn't matter. Shouldn't be pushing there unless some attack came very declares of me. Come on, it should recognize the exercises have stopped. Consumption, yeah, okay, it went down. Some in surplus again. Tricky situation. That's why I haven't pre-deployed these tanks. I know, I just don't have the oil to do exercises. Yeah, I thought about pushing on Prussia, but might be better off deploying these guys here and just adding divisions on this front here. Because they're a little further entering. I bet I can exercise just them. In fact, I'm going to pre-deploy. What I want to do is stop the Poles from attacking here so the infrastructure can be repaired. It keeps getting damaged by these unending attacks. And he's actually, that's right, he's got the guys up there. Still cutting a profit on the oil. Maybe I can consider canceling one of the things where I'm buying just 2 oil. Let's see. China. And what size China eventually going to end up on? Soviets won't intervene because Japan's not at war with them. I'm not sure. It might be neutral on all this. They might not. I'll just keep it up and stockpile oil. Gotta have the oil. Simple as that. And cancel the oil imports. Already an hour in this video? Wow. Alright, I may cut this one short soonest. End this video soonish, sooner than I've been thinking before, just because I am not able to think as clearly as I was hoping. Whoa, that's a ton of defense value. Is there some hidden, whatever. 5 divisions here? Huh. If they're attacking, I think I might be able to get away with. How long does it take? There's almost certainly going to be attack there, so if I pull another division, so I'll just pull these guys. In fact, I want to get them clear. I'll strategically redeploy them so they don't consume oil moving, because of how short I am. So I'd rather have a tank in combat than motorized. Put my best equipment to actual use. Hopefully the AI will fill in and reinforce this area. I've been waiting for a long time for the French to send a division here if they're smart enough. Because I need these divisions to actually push. Not to sit defending. That's not what those divisions were for. I need to close this bloody encirclement and then slowly, after the divisions get worn down a bit from low supply and attrition, slowly start to destroy all these divisions. Also as fuel allows. There's a lot of fighters there. Where's not going great. Looks like the Poles might be massing for an attack. Just trying to get these militia trained up quickly. They can reinforce in. Once they're trained, these guys got reduced to veterancy level from combat losses. What a... See, I want to train them up. This infantry brigade, probably switch to have a heavier infantry brigade now. It's 5 infantry, 2 artillery, which is actually the same amount of manpower as 6 infantry. And it's got some more support. It has anti-air and it's got rangers, which help the artillery fight better, and they're actually man-for-man fight better than infantry battalions. The may or may not be cost effective, except I'm sitting on the artillery anyways. It might as well be put to use rather than doing absolutely nothing. I didn't actually buy British artillery. I have all this British stuff because the old designs that were created by previous German tags, the Nazis and the non-aligned side of the war, just the game bugged and it suddenly thought that that was British made equipment instead of German made, of German tags that don't exist anymore. So that's actually German equipment captured in the Civil Wars, like when the other side capitulated, mostly, some in combat. Yeah, these guys are definitely preparing for an assault. It's good I pre-deployed these guys. I'll give them front. Make sure no provinces are taken. Ideally, deter the attack altogether, so infrastructure can be repaired. Once it's all repaired, I'm going to be recontinuing work on the forts in Ostmark eventually. In these 2 provinces. Also factories and synthetic refineries to build there. Just checking for battles that might need my help. I think I've generated so much world tension. Opposing Hitler. The 2 treaties at the end of each civil war. Treaty of Allenstein. What? Oh, the People's Victory. That was at the end of the Second German Civil War. Suffered a lot of world tension from puppeting my own stuff and forcing what was non-aligned puppet Finland to communism. And that's by far, I think, the biggest contribution to made the capitalist countries nervous that I forced Finland to communism. I didn't puppet them, which ironically would have produced less. Telemark. Eventually, Norway will probably join the EU, so it's theoretically possible I could actually come to occupy Telemark at some point. Captured from the Norwegians. Of course, I would have to be able to launch naval invasion there, so not unless this war goes a long time or the British join me in it. If the British join, it'll be much easier to gain enough control of the seas to invade Norway. If they join this faction, which both the Dutch are running decisions to invite nations because they get those as the EU path, and there's like combined decision focus things they're going on with Poland. When Poland became the faction leader and they got those focuses, it's essentially doubled the growth rate of the EU, or maybe even tripled it. They're very quickly going to eat up any country that's not in a faction. It's going to end up joining them except Switzerland. So and they don't get anything that focuses on Karelia or Sapimi here either. But everything else, it'll all be hostile eventually. Greece might turn communist before they do it if I'm lucky. Turkey, they don't have anything on actually. Could theoretically. Of course, they can't flip communist and join the Balkan faction unless there's something I don't know about related to the focuses to pressure them that the Bulgarians get. You normally need a coup, spy action civil war to flip them if you built that much communist support. They have low enough stability to do it easily. It's just finding the spies. And if I did it, they'd probably end up joining the Comintern after flipping anyways. The International Revolutionary Marxists are so allying with the Soviets, and actually I'd create an enemy for myself I don't need. I know 5th Panzers are not in this fight, so I was trying to reassign them. They're just staying reinforcements. I'm going to send them here so that Lensky can lead this, use his superior skill, and gain experience. Why is that? Oh, he's now level 6, which means, voila, He's a combined arms expert, not a specialist anymore. Better buffs for my motorized and mechanized divisions. Every bit helps. Every bit helps. And there's Poles bloody attacking. Three divisions there. Two there. If they had concentrated their attack here, I might have been in trouble, but they did not. So it'll be fine. Eberhard will just get that much closer to cavalry leader, I believe, actually. He doesn't have enough infantry under his command to gain infantry leader, but yeah. And ranger, that'll be what he gains next. That'll really help with defending the force here, the ranger. In fact, he has so many earned traits, so he only has actually organizer. But he probably won't gain cavalry leader before I eventually switch him back to having infantry. No. You don't get to join the war. You just get conquered. I need you for the oil raids. And occasional enlise and the colonial divisions. These are all good focuses my allies are doing. Quite appropriate for the situations. Some of them should have been done earlier, but whatever. I know this is a bit of a wing game. I apologize. Partly, divisions need to exercise up to higher experience levels. Then I can stick them in the front, pull others back, do the same with them. I'm trying to reform my divisions to have more artillery, but I can't really do that with divisions until I have others that can replace them on the front. This all would have happened much quicker if I wasn't at war. The war is actually slowing down my modernization of my military quite substantially. Oh, and I'm at 500 air experience already. Annoying. If there's anything that I possibly might want to design, I should probably do it. I mean, I could, for the heck of it, design a heavy strategic bomber. Maybe one of my puppets want to license it or something. Let's do engines too, because that's lower tech, cheaper. No, the thrust is needed, isn't it? Yeah, the thrust is definitely needed. They're not gonna have agility when they're just bombing anyways, so they might as well. I don't know. Come up with a name. HE20. Why not? Or HE42 for the year it was designed. Or, I could do a naval patrol bomber. No. Strat. Yeah, I won't have any agility, but it's actually bombing stuff, so It's just a use of their experience mostly, but maybe someday I'll be glad I designed this. I can do port strikes, but they're very, very bad at them. All these turrets, they have a prayer of being cost effective, able to operate without a zillion escorts. Also bomb sites. Oh, there we go. Radio nav. It's a very heavy bomber. Incredibly expensive to produce. But, maybe it'll get licensed. Maybe by some weird way of things, I'll mark it obsolete. I think that also makes it cheaper to license for puppets and stuff. Although maybe they won't. Yeah, I think they faction members, maybe I'm hoping they'll make it more likely to actually license it. It's just a way to spend the Navy experience. I mean the air experience. Oh, and actually there is something useful I can do. No. 64 just for the airframe. Never mind, I was going to say naval patrol bombers, but not with such a high base cost. Better off with a medium airframe with medium bomb bay followed by torpedoes to do naval patrols. It's much cheaper. Still has the range needed. Or light aircraft sometimes don't. Anyhow. I ran into this guy before, right? Yeah. It's kind of cheap, but burn fuel and gain benefit until the first time midnight takes over. I'm obviously not going to be. What's rubber? Yeah, that's because I just started production on. What did I start production on? Oh, the Ju-87Bs, those dive bombers. That'll have to do for now. And then we'll start on this. So I'm fine being at -2 rubber rather than buying rubber. I mean, the French could use the factories, but they're also not very good about how they assign their factories. I've still got some actually important things left to do before I'm willing to blow factories, just handing them to the French AI. If it was a player, I'd probably buy that rubber. One of the stupid things is the AI spreads its factories all over the place and never builds infrastructure. What the smart thing to do is usually, for a bigger nation, is build infrastructure up to level 5 and then build like 8 factories in a state. That will be cheaper than one here, one there. useless, I see. And you'll have the benefits of sometimes like extra resource production, like steel or oil from the infrastructure in a state. If you choose somewhere that's got a lot of build slots and resources, then yeah. And of course, units move faster, you get more local supply with infrastructure. There's a number of reasons it's good. Oh no, these guys are getting defeated. Surprisingly. Even with my bombers coming to the aid, it looks like. Less than a day. Can't be taking that many casualties. Still, oh, these guys must have deorganized, not reinforced back in. As I don't want this area to be lost. Losing the state would mean having to retake it later. Offense is always hard in defense. So send my guy. Reinforce in. Let's just turn green, but it's probably a very close battle. Things will slowly turn in my favor. Just gotta be patient. There's relatively few fighters here anymore. Enemy fighters, that is. But yeah, I don't have quite enough air support to get full debuffs to the enemy, sorry. And do not want to pull those fighters, even though... since I can only replace them so fast. In too much combat, I'll lose fighters faster than I can produce them. I do have these tactical bombers. I'm going to stop them because they, in these tasks, because they don't have the same exact modules. The inclusion of small bomb bays and bomb mocks variously means they can't stack in the existing air wings, so I'll have to form new air wings for those. Well, in some ways that's better because the aces become more effective as the wings get smaller up until they reach 50 planes. Of course, losses to wing get us rounded. Alright, I'm risking too many aces here. Gonna merge these two wings because that reduced them to... Are you kidding me? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Well, I definitely shouldn't have done that. Doesn't make any sense. They were all veterans and now suddenly they're all irregulars because I merged the wings. I shouldn't risk that guy, actually. Not if, not on a wing that's not experience. But I had to do that because maybe I didn't have to, but there's nothing I'm producing yet, not until I get these under production that can reinforce them. That really shouldn't happen. Experience shouldn't be reduced by merging wings like that. But there are a few cases where you suffer losses to air wing and it gets rounded up. So if it's like 0.2 losses, it gets rounded up to 1. Really small wings actually suffer proportionally more losses in the long run as a result. I don't think I'm going to have too much trouble in this air zone again for a while. It's not like I was going to send back there. I don't know. Also gets more guys under a single ace. Freeing up aces to get used in other air wing types, such as my dive bombers here. Dive bombers are more survivable because they're faster, even though they have less air defense. Excuse me. Although they may suffer losses at a faster rate, just less than IC wise, so that may actually be a worse place for an ace. I could be wrong. No. Oh, start one lease, yes. Okay, I'm making mistakes left and right. So maybe I should just save at this point, cut the video, pick this up someday when I'm less tired. That's probably a good idea. Well, in that case, until next time, this is Northstar signing off. Wish you all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Adieu.